Cloud9, Tempest, and LMQ. Tough set of choices.
So,
someone's got to do it.
Bans and picks. Blue side, this is going much quicker. Karthus has been taken away, along with the Kha'Zix and the Soraka Jax. Taken away by Team Dignitas, along with LeBlanc and Nidalee. 4 games for 4. Lucian first picked.
What is happening?
They love their Lucian. They love their Lucian.
What is going on right now? Thresh is still up on the board, even though Daydreamin did not have an inspiring performance on him. Don't know if they'll need that very early. I'm basically just enthralled now to see what Scar picks next.
Lulu? I mean, Lulu's still up and available.
You can totally do that.
We'll have to see somewhat poetic if it is locked in for Dignitas. But there is still time, and in contrast to game 1, those bans came very quick fire. It was quite clear what both of these teams feel coming into game 2.
Yeah, they get the Lee Sin because, yes, that worked for them last game, and it also denies it from Zion Spartan, who has had some very good top lane Lee Sin games. Dignitas looking to emulate the last game as much as possible with those first 2 picks.
Well, we'll see if Coast wants to play that Irelia once more. Zion has been trending towards it with LeBlanc off the table. I mean, Shifter has to decide what he also wants to play. Uri in the previous game did find some picks, but they were far from being game-changing because Coast was so far behind from so early on.
Yeah, Coast is going to want to be able to pick something that has early game presence from their jungle. Shinzao, as I should say, would be a good pick for Nintendo, but he goes to the Elise once again. Very similar team comps on both sides so far.
Yeah, sitting with a same champions previously, obviously just swapping out those 80 carries, but Nintendo again, making sure he's actually avoiding that Feral Flare. I'm going to go as far as to say, going back to a comfort older style jungler.
It's not his style of an item either. I do like the Draven for mine and Cutie Pie, though. He is undefeated on it this split. Very aggressive Draven player, and it will work great with their dive-heavy style. Everyone goes in, you can throw those whirling axes right down the middle.
We'll have to see how well they can make it work in their favor. So, Draven locked in. The interesting question for me is what did Dignitas put in that mid lane? Lulu still not secured, may be locked in now for Coast, but if that is taken off the table, that is another high priority mid lane that is going to be taken off the table. I'm not believing that with all of the dive mobility and Dignitas. That giant eyeball is going to be looked over in favor of something else.
They're trying to see into the future here and know what to pick. Scar could also pick that. Maybe they're just going through Scar's potential picks. His Veigar is something he did play in the LCS and played a lot of solo queue with.
It wasn't particularly inspiring though.
It does heavily depend on what Coast decides to go with, and the Ziggs is somewhat assassinatable.
So this is the first time we are seeing that Ziggs this weekend, but we have seen a whole bunch of Ziggs over in Europe.
Shifter Ziggs is fantastic. It's a ban in some regions. And the Orianna.
So, dare say it, a safe, old-school standard pick. Orianna tends to be the mid lane champion that mid laners fall back to when either everything else is banned or they don't know what to play.
Yeah, it's the original Lulu in the mid lane, if that makes sense, where it's the supportive mid laner who can kind of do a little bit of everything. But especially with the dive composition that Dignitas is building towards, it's a bit more support for that dive. Or protection for I'm a Cutie Pie. Do it all.
Super strong ball delivery systems on the side of Team Dignitas. They're Lee, Nocturne, or Leona. Over on the side of Team Coast, they've also got fairly strong diving champions with that Irelia and Elise and Thresh. But you do feel like that it's going to be more dependent on Shifter landing his poke before they commit to any sort of all-in engages.
Yeah, the nice thing about this composition, at least for Coast, the biggest change is the Ziggs instead of the Assassin Ahri. And I think that works a lot better. The Exhaust, even though he could still kill Skara, he was just killing Skara. And at least with Ziggs, he can kill a lot more.
So also give Coast the chance to drag the game out. If they do fall behind, they can siege and defend sieges much more effectively. And as those champions are striding onto the Rift, remember to keep sending us your vote for who you think will take the win. Tweet us at LOL Esports and use that hashtag CSTWin or DIGWin. Don't remember if we've seen an update on the vote in the previous game.
Well, Dignitas had a pretty strong vote going into the series. I'd imagine, especially after that controlling, devastating Game 1 victory they handed to Coast, it's going to be pretty high.
I think so too. We will need to keep our eyes on that once we do get into this game. Coast have no wiggle room. They have no room for error. If they are playing from behind from early on, at least Ziggs will help that cause, I believe. But they can't afford to go down. They can't afford to run the risk of losing their positions in the LCS in that summer promotion tournament.
Interestingly enough, Dignitas was in a very similar position yesterday, being up 1-0 in a best of 3. They then lost 2 games in a row against Curse and got placed into this game against Coast.
Last game, both teams sat in their respective tri-bushes, got some s'mores out,
Yeah.
built a tent, started a little campfire,
Started pushing.
and then started trading towers. Coast came out, let's be fair, they came out even, albeit somewhat slower.
And then they
did
lost
trade
the
2 for 2 and
Yeah.
lost the Dragon, unfortunately. We'll need to see if Coast now on the blue side can either replicate that success and get themselves a small lead, which is what Dig did very well previously.
It's interesting that Coast just went with the triple heal this time. Dignitas went with similar summoners. Scar going exhaust. Try and save himself a little bit while the bottom lane is still going with the double heal. Couple clutch saves that happened last time from Dig. They're going to be playing into these long team fights with the Orianna shield, of course, triple heal or double heal going in with it.
Unless somebody gets deleted by a Lee Sin Nocturne Leona combo.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll have to see if Kiwi Kid can land some of those abilities onto the back line of Coast. But slow starts. Skara deciding to chill in the mid lane. It's like, screw you guys, I don't want to be in that top lane. I don't want to be invading. And wow, that
will win.
Pretty convincing.
Dignitas 84%. Their fans think that they are going to win as well, supporting them in this vote. They want to see Dignitas guaranteeing their spot in the 2014 summer split. So, will we see the buddy system? Watch Cruiser and Crumbs. So watch Zion on the other side. Definitely buddy system from Dignitas on the other side. They are doing the same this time. It's about time.
We need to keep our eyes on how efficiently these two... It looks like Zion wanted to go for the white. So, buddy system, yes, but Coast still not on the same page. They're reading from different playbooks.
A little bit right there. This will be very, very even turret pushes this time.
So Coast a little behind still. Dignitas are onto very white, I believe is what Freak was calling it a little while ago. Both whites going to be taken out. If one's Barry, is the other Larry?
I don't agree with that naming convention at all.
It has been a long day.
To make that
I think I'm spending too much time with Freak, that's where my mind goes to. So, Coast and Dignitas onto the first towers in their lane. They're going to be starting this one out evenly. But remember, the damage reduction on this top lane should mean Coast have a small advantage in the bottom.
Yeah, going to be a slightly faster push, but this is both teams, I'd say, doing it properly. They're getting to the bottom lane as quickly as they can. Everyone level 2, so they have all their abilities, and they're pushing down these turrets as quickly as possible. Dig takes it down 1 or 2 seconds slower. Not that big a deal.
Much of a muchness. They are on par with one another. Dig and Coast continue that 4-man lane push in the top and bottom lanes respectively. The question is, who calls chicken first? Who begins those recalls to defend their inhibitor turrets? This is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, I think the question will really become, who gets the empty lane after this is all said and done? Is it going to be I'm a Cutie Pie or Wiz Fusion? Or is it going to be Zion, Spartan, and Cruiser? Are they going to give the farm to the top laners or the AD carries?
Kind of has to be Cutie Pie. Get those adorations.
Especially after the game he had last game. And the way Cruiser was able to still get a substantial amount of farm and have impact on Lee Sin despite not getting that empty lane farm.
So Cutie Pie does get that tower hit. Little bit of CS behind that of Wiz Fusion. Shifter takes the satchel charge away, and Kiwi Kid, similar attempt, no flash this time around. This is a mirror image of that previous run.
Yeah, exactly.
But Shifter was forced to blow his summoner spell because Kiwi Kid actually fired and landed a skill shot.
Here's the really critical thing about what just happened, though, compared to Game 1. In Game 1, even though they traded 2 turrets for 2, because Dignitas pushed so much faster, they had time to take the Dragon afterwards. This time, because Coast and Dignitas pushed at exactly the same pace, Coast could not rotate for the Dragon afterwards, and Dignitas comes out of it still with a very small lead, but that's mainly just because minions are pushed on one side.
Oh, catches the Zenith Blade onto Shifter. That's me getting a bit more excited than maybe I should have, but at the end of the day, Dig pulling off that 2v2, or the 4v1 rather, lane swap, and as you've highlighted, coming out a little better. So it's Cruiser that's actually getting the side lane farm. I had thought it was going to be Cutie Pie. He is currently playing the role of a jungler, I believe. Moving around, we'll see if he's actually picking up those camps. And we'll be meeting Wiz Fusion a Daydreaming. Wiz Fusion in the top lane, rather. Wiz Fusion's got the support of Zion, so that's an interesting duo pairing, not one we see very often.
giant stack of minions, which is why it's very good that Crumbs is giving support to this lane. This was actually a nice move by Coast sending 4 up here, but it's immediately matched by 3 on Dignitas, which will prevent this dive and allow them to get experience. If they didn't send all 3 up here, they'd be getting dove right now.
That was so close. Crumbs manages to just sidestep the cocoon and actually spell shields that death sentence. So teleport used by Coast and Zion Spartans in the bottom.
The more Coast continues to force lane swaps and keep Crumbs in lanes, the better it is for them. Something important to note about Feral Flare is it actually starts stacking up even though you don't see the indicator at the time you build Hunter's Machete. So from the very start of the game, Crumbs is trying to get those large camps dead. As long as he has to keep coming and supporting those lanes, that stacks up much more slowly.
On the condition, Coast don't lose CS.
True.
Now the previous game, Coast, for the first 15 or 20 minutes, I felt they were rotating, trying to push towers or trying to push objectives at the expense of Nintendo farming and to a degree, Zion Spartan as well. I mean, it really did put them behind in terms of gold. This time around, numbers are a whole lot closer.
Yep.
Still a 10 disparity between Nintendo and Crumbs, but it is far too early to truly read too much into that.
And we've actually broken into standard lanes for the most part, with fairly even farm on both sides. So we may actually get to see Cruiser and Zion Spartan go at it head-to-head, or Cutie and Kiwi Kid try and dominate a little bit 2v2. Zion Spartan, though, level 6 before Cruiser, trying to pressure.
Yeah, Crystal Ball of Jats working perfectly head-to-head, and Zion decides to back away. Doesn't go all in for the kill, but he's forced Cruiser away. Gonna at least keep him on the back foot and make him second guess any future engages. They manage to land the Zenith onto Wiz Fusion. Stand aside, does not interrupt the Lantern.
There's an outside chance if, as soon as he clicks the Lantern, if he connects with that stand aside, because the stand aside would actually cancel the Lantern move. That's what he was going for there, but it just requires perfect timing, and it's fairly luck-based, honestly.
Well, good attempt at the very least.
Worth a try.
By a little bit of CS behind. It's one of those things that Dravens really want to get those adoration stacks up. Oh, there we go. Good interruption on the play. Kiwi Kid playing very aggressively. He's really looking for opportunities right now. I think it's 11 stacks of adoration on the side of Cutie Pie, working his way up, trying to get as much bonus gold for that first kill. We do see Dignitas moving towards the top lane.
One of the big reasons they were playing so aggressive is they'd seen Nintendo decks and wards down in the Dragon Side River. Now they might actually be considering a little bit of a dive. There's 2 teams trying to collapse on each other right now, actually. It's just a matter of who gets caught first.
Oh, Cocoon connects onto Crumbs. Bouncing Bomb comes out. Shifter's going to carry on chasing. Mega Inferno Bomb goes down. That's a flash from Crumbs. So advantage Coast, finding the right target. All of a sudden, Kiwi Kid held in place. He gets played backwards. That's a good flash over the wall. We're going to keep following Crumbs as Crumbs on the Dustbringer gets taken out by the Translucent Blades. Zion Spartan now wants to dash onto Scara. First blood secured. Couple assists on the side of Coast, and they've set their sights on the mid turret.
Yeah, the faster collapse there by Coast. They catch Dignitas in their own rotation, and now they're the ones grouping up as 5. They're keeping Crumbs down in this game thus far. He is a level 4 Nocturne with no flash at 8.5 minutes.
To see how Coast continue to grow this lead. Coast have so often pulled ahead in the laning phase, only to throw it away in the mid game.
Yeah.
To make poor decisions when pushing the map and give up objectives. They can't afford those same mistakes here at this very high pressure game.
The thing this time though is, at least with Ziggs, they have so much innate team fight control already that split push isn't a necessity for them this time. As Kobe and Saint were saying, they need something other than split push. Shifter's Ziggs may be just that. It's straight push or middle push. No, not splitting. All-together push.
Siege, maybe?
Yeah.
Could that be the word?
We actually have words for it. I was just trying to be creative.
Good attempt. My bad. I should have backed you up on that one. So Wiz Fusion is down in this bottom lane. Cruiser not going to find Zion Spartan to play with. Fusion farming up under the tower, doing a pretty good job at landing those last hits. Cruiser's actually got himself a small CS lead, thanks to those shenanigans in the river and mid lane by Coast. But of course, with Zion getting first blood, he's going to be sitting pretty happy. And Cruiser seems to be going towards that Ravenous Hydra build once more. Got a pickaxe already.
Yeah, really got to wonder how Cutie Pie's dealing with those adoration stacks. He's going to want to detonate those pretty quickly. He's sitting on a whole bunch of them. I think he'd be getting, what is it, 300 gold or 160 gold? The tooltip rolls over after he maxes it up, so.
A whole lot. Now, Dignitas onto the Dragon. Coast sitting around the sideline. Nintendo, is he feeling confident for the steal? Not even an attempt. And Nintendo's confidence must be somewhat shot after these last few games. Dig sneak the first dragon again. 2 games in a row, they've got the first dragon on the map, but it was a little bit later this game, so worth somewhat more.
Evening out the gold despite getting caught in that one rotation. Those hooks have been wide left, wide right, all over for Daydreaming. And he just needs to find his rhythm again.
He needs to reconfigure his sights, I feel.
Yeah.
Adjust his mouse DPI.
X-Special had some great hooks in that game too against COG. I mean, speaking of Threshes trying to come in and turn a series around, that was one.
In comparison, I mean, yesterday Daydreaming had some very good hooks. You know, he was on point, but maybe today just not really working out. It's not the end of the world because Coast are still in the lead. They've got a kill to their name. They've got an extra tower to their name. Gold is even, of course, thanks to that dragon playing out in Dignitas' favor. And we see the wriggles completed by Crumbs. He's now extending that CS advantage. Nintendo's still trailing in terms of last hits. So we need to keep our eyes on that as Coast look to grab themselves their 4th tower of the game uncontested.
It is the nature of the matchup that he's going to be trailing, but what he's accomplished this game that he did not in the first one is he's helping his team take these objectives. He's sitting in the lanes and helping them push. He's being a persistent threat, and most importantly, he's keeping Crumbs out of the jungle for the most part. He's only 14 down, and that's worth the 2 turrets that Coast has acquired.
I'm going to try to turn it into 3. Whirling Death comes across just to clear out the minion wave, so Cutie Pie helping out from way downtown. At least slows down Coast's initial big push. Looks like the Mega Inferno Bomb from Shifter actually clearing out the bottom wave. So both teams using their global abilities to control the wave. We did see the Zenith Blade connecting. The Lantern pulls him out. That's a Paranoia. In the background, an instant flash from Zion Spartan gets locked up by the Solar Flare. But thanks to Aurelia's passive, she's out of that one very quickly. Shockwave pulls both members of Coast backwards, and Skara actually saving his teammate's life with a great ultimate.
A bit of a strange initiation right there because they have a Draven all the way at the bottom lane. Shifter tried to support a little bit with that ultimate, and they're still getting turret pressured across the map. Despite blowing all their ultimates, they lose another.
So trading towers, but it's an inner tower lost for Dignitas to an outer turret lost for Coast. Coast now 5 towers to 3. And like you talked about, the straight pushing composition of Coast working out in their favor. They've grouped up as 5, and they're going to get another one if Dignitas don't respond quickly enough.
Cutie Pie so much time on the side. Cruiser gets hooked a little bit, but finally Dignitas is able to push them back with a bit of extra wave clear. They are taking an onslaught of wave pressure here from Coast in game 2.
This is much better decision-making from Coast.
Yep.
They've set their sights on a target, and very importantly, they've secured it. Multiple towers now in a row. Coast have positioned, they have executed, and they've secured. The only thing is, they are still only 700 gold ahead. It is still very close as far as gold is concerned.
So once again, Dignitas is giving I'm a Cutie Pie the empty wave farm, and that's one of the reasons they lost that last turret, is because he was bottom the whole time they were trying to defend without him. And it is allowing him to pull a bit ahead of Wiz Fusion. You know, he's stacking up his adoration. As long as he doesn't die, he's going to cash in a huge amount of gold when he does get one of those kills, and it would propel Dignitas back in the lead. They're just putting a lot of faith in him to perform.
Basing that opinion off the previous game, I think that's pretty well-placed pretty well-placed faith. Cutie Pie level 8 now. As we've touched on, I believe that's 280 stacks, I believe it is, because it drops the third digit. So that's going to be a whole whack of gold. Dignitas just biding their time. I think, you know, both of these teams are going to scale quite effectively, but they'll do different things as this game progresses. And Coast, I guess as long as they're in or around towers, Dignitas going to be relying on that wave clear from Skara's Orianna to keep their towers safe and sound.
It was actually really interesting in the first game how it seemed very slow-paced, but by the end of it, there were a ton of kills. Because the team fights that these guys had are actually very explosive. And when they're meeting around objectives, they're just killing a lot of each other. It's not one of those games where you get one kill and everyone disengages. These are really brawly teams, especially from Dignitas' side.
So Daydreaming does manage to get these. They get Paranoia now from Crumbs onto Wiz Fusion. Shockwave has already been flashed away. The fear holds Wiz Fusion in place, and the Whirling Death does not secure the last hit. Kiwi Kid eats yet another death sentence. Skara in the background takes a Duskbringer to the face. They trade 1 for 1. It's Cutie Pie that gets the kill onto Daydreaming. We'll have to double check the gold. It's not over yet. That's a kickback onto Zion Spartan from the Dragon's Rage. He's trying to find somebody to catch.
a 1-for-1 as long as Zion doesn't catch someone is a big, good trade for Dig because they could cash in the adoration, but he's a little bit faster than Cutie Pie.
So Cutie Pie manages to get stunned up. He moves slightly out of range. Nintendo, let's go back in for one last bite of Kiwi Kid. And Kiwi gets away. So as you've highlighted, 1-for-1. We didn't quite see how much gold that adoration stack costs.
But what we do see is that the gold in the game is now close to even. So this fight was just so close to Dignitas catching opportunities. The Whirling Death would have finished WizFusion if he didn't flash away. But Dignitas continues the chase, which actually exposed Scar in the back, which was a bit of a mistake. But we're going to focus on this here to see the gold value. He gets plus 660 from that with all his adoration stacks. That's 3 kills in 1 for Cutie Pie.
Combine that with the kill credit, 1,000 gold swing. Allows him to pick up that pickaxe as well as a longsword, and just goes back to stacking up that adoration. Continues to grow the CS lead. We touched on how Dignitas are going to be banking on a Cutie Pie's bank, and it worked.
And this is the story of Game 1, personified in Game 2. This time, though, Kiwi Kid gets caught.
Kiwi Kid loves those death sentences. I think that's 4 in a row now over the last 2 minutes. It cost him his life this time round, and now Dignitas in a 4v5 if they want to contest, and they don't.
Couple of things. With the Ziggs, they're stronger in team fights, so therefore Coast is more confident. But instead of just starting the Dragon and waiting for Dignitas to come in on them, they attacked first. They initiated on Kiwi Kid. They tried to peel instead of making it up to a steal, and they get the kill, plus some more pushing pressure.
Well, we'll see if another death sentence can land. Daydreaming, looking, is he going to wind up? That's the question. No flash from Cutie Pie. An adrenaline rush allowing him to get the movement speed he needs to move out of range. And Daydreaming landing a few very good death sentence over these last few fights. It's allowed Coast to extend that goal.
Finding his rhythm.
Yeah, finally getting it secured. Trinity Force has been completed by Zion Spartan, so he's had a nice power spike. See Athenes and Holy Grail as well as those Sork shoes on Shifter, so going to start building up that ability power, looking to burst people down, and very importantly, Nintendo still holding on to that 10 CS deficit. He is somewhat behind, but so much more impressive this game than the previous game. Actually feels like he's going to have a presence.
Absolutely. The one interesting thing about this, though, is Coast did just hit a pretty big power spike. You know, with the Trinity Force, the big items coming up for Shifter, but they've taken everything they can at this juncture in the game. They've killed 6 turrets. Dignitas is just sitting in empty lanes, waiting to get picked off by Coast, but it's just a matter of Coast finding the right pickoffs. The Dragon is dead, it's too early for Baron, and they're not going to be killing an inhibitor turret unless they kill a bunch of Dignitas. It's actually hard for them to find the fights they really need to. And if they don't do that, Dignitas would probably come back in this game a little bit.
So we're going to say something that's maybe a little obscure, but
sure.
When you look at other teams, other games that have got every single tower down up until the inhibitor turret, have a kill advantage, have a gold advantage, you generally get the vibe, wow, they're in control of that game. I don't have that same feeling from Coast. Even though they have been dictating the pace to Dignitas, it is a very small 1,000 gold difference. Dignitas haven't really attempted to stop them yet.
And they haven't stopped Dignitas from farming while they're taking these turrets. It's not like they're starving them out of the turrets or their own jungle. The counter jungling hasn't necessarily happened. And Dignitas has let some of these turrets fall because they're having I'm a Cutie Pie farm. 151. That farm is comparative to the rest of the game very high.
A large amount ahead of WizFusion unintended. He's got to be super careful. He's got the backup of Shifter. He doesn't realize how many members of Dignitas were nearby. Kiwi Kid actually decides to hold on to all of his abilities and doesn't attempt to lock him down. So Coast, once again, move away. WizFusion, 97 CS. Does have a whole bunch of global gold from those towers. Don't forget about that. But he is so far behind the CS game. 1,400 gold separates WizFusion and Cutie Pie. His team's setting a little bit more focus towards the Baron.
They're going to have to break through another barrier, though, if they want to really get this game into their hands. And that's either Zion Spartan stopping I'm a Cutie Pie from farming, or getting absolute vision control over the Baron area and taking a Baron. Because they have so much space in this Dignitas jungle. They should be aiming to take control of the Dig jungle and continue to starve them out and farm that way. Until they do that, though, Dig's going to keep hanging around.
Well, vision from Coast does seem actually pretty good towards this top half of the map. There's a lot of Dignitas towards the bottom.
Dangerous.
Zion Spartan has caught out Cutie Pie. Cutie Pie goes all the way back to pick up that spinning X. Now teleport from Cruiser. Is it going to be enough to help out? That's Daydreaming. He's once again caught Kiwi Kid. Kiwi Kid with a solar flare. Gonna get away from that one, but Kiwi Kid caught out. Daydreaming really has Kiwi Kid's number.
Dig really out of sorts. They're trying to match the Aurelia split push with a Draven, which at this point in the game doesn't work. Zion Spartan has too much damage with that Trinity Force. Then during a rotation, they catch someone, and they catch Cruiser.
Another great hook. That's a 3-man shockwave from Skara, though. That could dictate the tempo of the fight. Paranoia has thrown down from Krabs. He decides not to pull the trigger and jump in, though, denying the vision. And thanks to that shockwave, can Dignitas hold this inhibitor turret? Oh, so close to connecting. Daydreaming doing work with Thresh in game 2 of the series.
Yeah, and also another thing to point out, Crumbs' Nocturne, still no Pharaoh Flare. Ooh, close miss there. He's been getting slowed down by Nintendo X right now and is still not transforming that item.
If memory serves, by this point in the last game, he had 6 stacks on his Feral Flare already.
At least.
So significantly slower in game 2. Now you're starting to feel Coastal are making the plays to get them where they want to. They just unfortunately ate that giant shockwave on the steps of the bottom lane inhibitor tower.
They were extremely close to breaking through the inhibitor wall barrier right there. If that shockwave wasn't so crisped by Skara, they would have taken inhibitor and had control of the game, because that would have actually been the best inhibitor for them to have down.
Cruiser really doesn't want that fight. Instant Dragon's Rage. The moment Zion landed in his face, that was an instant ulti kick away. He's scared of that, but I mean, the makings of Aranduans, probably. Chain Vest will become that Warden's Bale in the not too distant future. A 3-0 Zion Spartan. He's now deciding he wants to have a part in carrying this game.
So they're doing the split push thing again. How long are they going to do this until they see rewards is the biggest question. If it stays at 2,000 gold edge forever, it's not going to be good, but he needs to be able to close kills on a Cruiser.
Well, Cruiser's going to continue chasing. The dashes comes out. Translucent Blades were used. That was close. I mean, that's super one-sided. Cruiser didn't stop to put any sort of attacks down himself, but you really feel Zion has just got complete authority of any lane that he is in. Coast start off the Dragon. Dignitas not really in range. Welling Death, not going to work this time.
Full Dragon control for Coast. They're extending their lead, playing a very controlled style. It's almost as if they were a different team right now, I think we'd be saying they're full control, but we're just so used to seeing Coast lose these types of leads again and again. Nocturne ult mid lane.
Well, we'll see, can they catch out Daydreaming? He's been locked in place, does finally go down. Shockwave holds down Nintendo in place, so they've traded 1-for-1. Jungler for support, and that was good damage from Shifter to secure him. Now Cruiser has dashed back in. Look for Nintendo to land. Does manage to move forward. That's an aggressive move by Kiwi Kid. He's flashed forward. Nintendo sidesteps the Sonic Wave as Shifter manages to flash himself aside. Scar is going down. Zion Spartan is untouched. And uses that ultimate. There's a few more kills on the side of Coast. They've got a very small window where Skara is down and Coast are going for the inhibitor turrets.
Teleport came down in the backside of that team fight, and Zion Spartan joined the fray at just the right moment. This is a nearly indefensible turret by Dignitas. They're trying to heal up. Oh no, Zion found Cruiser.
Oh, Cruiser's in trouble. Does kick Zion over the line. Line of trees, kicks him into the forest, and that means that they prevent at least one death, but the interruption has slowed down Cruiser from getting to the turret. Crumbs gets in range, turret goes down, Coast have an exposed inhibitor.
Big turret kill. They're now up 7 turrets to 3. This is a complete role reversal of what Coast was happening against Dignitas last game. They let Dignitas farm last game without putting out the adequate pressure, and that is just not the story this time. They regrouped between games 1 and 2 and really put an emphasis on killing turrets. The Ziggs has been demolishing waves, helping them keep the pressure up, and the rest of the team has just been mopping up the turrets.
Yeah, for the first time all weekend, I feel like Coast is making the right plays. Paranoia is not available for Crumbs if he wants to go in, and Kiwi Kid manages to avoid at least one death sentence from Daydreaming. Minion Wave is wiped out thanks to Shifter's death cap on Ziggs. Dignitas' feeble attempt at pushing that mid tower is instantly thwarted.
Yeah, this is... Got to take another look at this fight in the mid lane, actually. It was amazing how much damage went down onto Crumbs because he looked pretty clean in there, but just got the middle of a Ziggs bomb, and then Cutie Pie could Did he stand aside? He did stop the teleport. I didn't even realize.
And he just
then
ran.
he just ran in and killed Skara, even though I'm a cutie pie burned his flash. Oh no, so Dignitas, an absolute miscommunication. One flash in while the other's flashing out, and it means Skara dies.
Zion Spartan didn't even need that teleport. Walked his way over.
Yep.
Gotta give props to Cutie Pie, I guess. He interrupted it, but it didn't exactly affect the outcome of the fight.
Yes and no. I mean, he's not in team fights. Draven has to be in team fights. Big initiation.
Oh, Nintendo's been caught out. Whirling Death flies across. That is a lot of damage from Dignitas. In the background, Kiwi Kid is trying to get away. Doesn't manage to make it, though. Skara eats a full culling. Manages to get a 3-man shockwave, but it is too little. It is too late. There is no death cap on Skara. Wizard Hat hasn't got the damage. That's a very aggressive move from Zion Spartan, trying to find Cutie Pie. But Cutie Pie is going to at least make it out, and Coast grab themselves an inhibitor.
Just another fight coming in for Coast's favor. That one wasn't even that close. They tried to close in on a shifter, but they were just out of sorts. Cutie Pie wasn't in auto attack range at the start of that fight. He just threw in his Whirling Death. And if you're going to put all your free lane farm onto your AD carry, you have to fight with him.
Cutie Pie's got to be with his team. Here's the replay.
Yeah, at this point, it was a decent initiation. They got a lot of damage on the stretch, but look at the mini-map. Orianna and Draven, way out of place. They went early because they saw Aurelia was out of place, but their own team was out of place.
Well, Dignitas are out of place right now, 2v1, and they still can't control Zion Spartan. Randian's only completed with that Trinity Force. Kiwi Kid's hanging out around the Baron pit. Baron has been secured, uncontested. Dignitas didn't get an invite. They arrived late to the party anyway. Coast, now you feel, are in complete control. With Baron, with super minions, with a 7,000 gold lead, surely it's just a matter of time before they get onto the next inhibitor turrets.
This honestly feels like a completely different Coast team from games 1 and 2.
As it has happened all split long.
It has happened. They've been pretty inconsistent. They've been on some pretty big win streaks. Then they go on giant loss streaks. They managed to beat TSM in a game. They took Cloud9 really close in a lot of these games. And this is one of their bigger leads. You've seen them squander some moderate leads in the past, but with Baron buff up 6,000, and most importantly, up 4 turrets and an inhibitor with a Death Cap, Void Staff, Athene's, Ziggs on your best player, they're sitting pretty.
There's just a few advantages there.
Just a couple.
Just a few. One thing I do want to highlight, just because we're keeping tabs of it, Krubs has been farming up a Storm, up to 150 CS on that Nocturne.
But so many more of his farming minions this game were from lanes instead of from the jungle, so his Feral Flare is not nearly as potent as it was in the past.
It doesn't have anywhere near the tanky stats that you'd be wanting on Nocturne either.
Life on hit.
Nintendo, on the other side, has got that Randian's Omen, so let's see what sort of impact he will have. Zion Spartan 4-0-0 up in the top lane. Solar Flare hits the ground. No one nearby. Another gutter ball. As Kiwi Kid unfortunately doesn't connect with Coach.
Kiwi Kid played spectacularly yesterday. His Solar Flares, even in the game they won, were not very impressive.
Kiwi Kid has a thing for those death sentences. He's eaten so many. Paranoia from Crumbs. This feels like a last-ditch fight as Crumbs is being burst out from with Fusion. Mega Inferno Bomb comes down. That is a dead Crumbs. 2 kills for Coast. Look at the backline. Here comes Zion Spartan. He's got 1. He's dashed onto Cutie Pie. He's sticking to him like Lou. The Randians comes out. Now Skara is the target. Bouncing bombs being thrown out, and Shifter doesn't get any more kills. That's it.
We're only 29 minutes in, but there's the Super Minions. There's only 2 people on Dignitas. This series is going all the way.
Skara gets melted on the steps of the fountain, and Coast show up. Coast decide to start playing when their LCS lives are on the line, even up a series 1-1.
What a strange series we have had thus far, because game 1 was all about Dignitas farming and Coast's inability to do anything, and then a 29-minute, 12-2, 9-turret siege stomping by Coast of Dignitas just happens in between games. The adjustment is immaculate right there. Nintendo X shut down Crumbs' farming on Nocturne and had a great game on Elise.
I want to take us all the way back to the feature